So the lovely thing about the DT240 rear hub is you can change out the end caps without any tools. So this is set up for 142mm by 12, and I need 135 quick release for the Cannondale. So I went for this rear hub because you can just buy the end caps and pop them off by hand. So here you can see DT ratchet. I've already pulled that end cap off. It just comes off with a bit of force by hand. This is the basic, the lowest engagement one. Probably not going to upgrade it, don't really see the point. It's a road bike, it's not a mountain bike. It's still pretty good. It's good enough. So I don't really like the noisiness of the 54-36 ratchet. So pretty light, not too light, very simple, easy to work on, easy to service, and like I said, the end caps just pull off. So I'm going to stick the quick release end cap on now. Obviously the quick release end caps are slightly shorter than the ones they replaced to give you the 135 spacing, but the important thing is that left and right, the centre line of the hub stays the same. So you need to make sure you're getting the right end caps. So I'll put the quick release ones on now. There we are, there's a quick release one on that side. Haven't done that one yet. Going to grease the end caps up a little bit before I finally push them home. Now the DT240 comes pretty well greased from factory, bearing wise, and the ratchet. Now you can add a bit more grease to the ratchet to make it quieter, but DT don't advise this, because if you get any slippage between the teeth on this ratchet system, then they will wear and you'll never get it back. If you damage those teeth and that engagement by adding more grease, you risk the chance of completely buggering the whole thing and never getting it to work again. So I'm going to leave it as it is for now. Maybe put a bit more grease on the end bearing and on the axle, but ratchet wise I'm going to leave that. Now getting the end cap off the disc side of the rear hub was actually a lot more difficult than just pulling it. I don't want to damage the end cap because I'll use them again on a different bike when I get a bike with through axle rear, but just used my girlfriend's running sock and a pair of pliers, stuck that in there, pulled it out. She's not up yet, so she won't know, but that worked perfectly. So now you can see, well, you will be able to see that by the combination of using these quick release end caps, the overall OLD, overlock nut distance of the hub, is going to be 7mm shorter. So each end cap is 3.5mm shorter than the through axle equivalent. Right, front hub, what did I go for? I went for the Tune King front hub disc centre lock, obviously 24 holes. What did I go for this? Really light and very big flanges. So let's take it out and have a look. Now you can get these in all sorts of anodised colours. Green would have gone quite well on the Cannondale, but seeing as I've got the rear hub in black, I went black on the front as well. So it's really light for a road hub. I mean, it's actually designed as a mountain bike hub, I think. As you can see, the flanges are huge and there's lots of machining to try and save weight. Now the high and wide flanges give a nice wide bracing angle to the front spokes. Now you can only go so wide on the front because you've got to fit the disc brake on, and they don't push this one out too much wider, otherwise the spoke tensions would be too imbalanced. So maybe it's not as wide as a rim brake front hub, but you've got 24 spokes, so that brings the stiffness back a little bit. So yeah, pretty simple. Should build into a nice light stiff front wheel. Not much more I can say about that really. Centre lock again, no adapters needed for Shimano. This one is 12mm through as standard, so that'll fit straight into the fork, no problem. Now bearing wise, I've just taken off the end cap. There's not much grease on the axle or on the outer side of the bearing, but that doesn't matter too much. But what bearing have we got in there? Well, it's a 6803, so it's a large IED. It's quite a large inner diameter on that bearing. I'm not quite sure what brand bearing they're using. There's no markings on the seal, but being Tune and being German, I would hope they're using something pretty decent. Don't think it's a cheap bearing in there. Time will tell obviously, but before I put the spacer and the end cap back on, I'm just going to give that a little bit of grease just for some extra weather sealing. Now, why is this hub so light when it's so big? Well, one of the reasons for the weight saving is look how thin the axle wall thickness is. This axle, they've obviously gone for a large inner diameter, which is why they're using the 6803 bearing, and that's probably one of the thinnest axles I've ever seen on a front hub, and especially something that you can use for mountain biking use. And that's where they get the weight saving from. If they use a much larger diameter, they can get the same stiffness with a lower wall thickness. And obviously there's no real buckling loads on the front axle. It's mainly just bending, so yeah, it's a nice touch, nice lightweight touch. Again, very easy to service with the Tune front hub. I just pulled one of the end caps off and then a quick shove on the end of the axle, and you can push the axle and the other end cap all the way out. Same bearing on this side, obviously. A bit more grease on this side, which is good. So there we go then, that's the front and rear hubs ready to go for the build. DT240S rear, converted to quick release, and Tune King front hub.